Well guys, the Tonys are over and we are now focusing on the box office, and there is some very interesting developments this week, so let's get into it. And Juliet continues to do very solid numbers, 96% last week and 813K. This week 91% and 822K. Boop continues to fall, and I think at this point it's only a matter of time until it closes. 78% last week, 492K last week. 85% this week, and 554K. Buena Vista Social Club, 99% for both weeks, and 1,161,897 last week, and 1,226,881. Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club, close it! 78% last week and 733K. This week, 76% and 666K. This show has to make about $1 million a week. And Miley Cyrus, yes, she was going to be the next Sally, is not in the show. I would say, listen, star casting in revivals is not a great economic model. And Cabaret has clearly shown that it is no longer sustainable. It's pretty clear that it doesn't need to close in the sense I want it to close. But from a financial standpoint, it absolutely could close from a justifiable standpoint. And honestly, I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, they have not, their highest grossing week was a year ago. Again, I would say that if I'm a producer of Cabaret, stop losing a lot of money and just close it. Dead Outlaw, 78% last week and 80% this week. 465K last week and 503K this week. Again, I think Dead Outlaw with its low running costs can make it to the end of the year, but we will see. People love their Tony performance, and when I look at the advanced sales for this week, it looked pretty well sold. Weirdly enough, it's not doing as good on the weekends, but that's a good sign for it despite winning no Tonys. I don't think it can have a maybe happy ending turnaround because of how weird a show it is, and again, that doesn't happen. It's the abnormal, not the normal. Death Becomes Her, 94% last week, and 1,346,164. This week, 87%, and 1,347,924. Floyd Collins, 73% to 76%, and 469K to 507K. And that is a limited engagement. Gypsy, 76% last week, and 1,109,959 to 69%, and 1,042,786. I don't think Audra was out, but that might explain it. Hadestown, 96% for both weeks, and 721K to this week's 756K. And that show is doing perfectly fine. I don't think it will close this year. If it does close, I see it maybe closing in 2027, January. It's had a pretty good year. It had a couple of tough weeks, but it's rebounded. As long as it's in the 750K plus area, it's fine. Harry Potter has announced that Tom Felton is coming back. Big sign that it is in desperate need of box office, and then that a show is not doing well. And it is not doing well. 82% this week, 938K. It's in desperate need, and I would say boycott the show, use your purse, do that, but at the same time, he is coming in that November-December timeframe, so families are, inevitably going to go, and so unfortunately, I predict that Harry Potter will see a surge because it's taking place during Christmas. And ultimately, I do think that it will stay until at least the end of next year. But again, the stunt casting, I think, will work because, again, it's in that perfect Christmas tourist time. But eventually, they will kind of run out of stunt casting at some point, and they will close. When? I don't know. I just don't think they're going to get many other Harry Potter stars to come back, especially not the big trio, which is what would set the box office on fire. There were also screenshots on the message boards at how there were queue lines, so clearly people don't really care about J.K. Rowling's anti-trans sentiments, or rather they do, but then they go and see the show anyways. Again, I think it's a personal choice, but for me, I saw it, it's been going on for almost 10 years now, so I don't want people to be out of work, but at the same time, many people have been employed by this show, and I think that Harry Potter ultimately is struggling because, I don't know if it's because of the trans comments, but I feel like that has to be part of it. But again, it seems like the stunt casting has unfortunately worked out. But I do think if the stunt casting was, in February or January, I think there might have been a better shot at being able to show that this production is not wanted in the community. Hell's Kitchen, 87% last week, and 939K, 83% this week, and 884K. As long as it stays in the 880s, 850s, it's fine. Just in Time sells out. 1,217,729 last week, 1,247,762 this week. Maybe Happy Ending sells out. 1,104,808 last week, and 1,159,543, and you know that it is going to go crazy next week because it won. Moulin Rouge, at this point, I'm waiting for a closing announcement. 95% last week, and 945K, 91% and 880K, because again, it is such an expensive production to put on. Mincemeat, 100% last week, 99% this week, 729K last week, 775K this week, and again, I think that it is a limited engagement, so that's why it's doing so well. But I do wonder if, because it's perfect, because if it does not so great, they can say, hey, we're closing in February, but if not, they can keep it going. I see this maybe being another 6. It's got low running costs, it's doing pretty well, it doesn't need to do 800K a week. Even if it falls to the 6s, that's fine. If it does consistent 5s and 4s, then it will probably close. But I'm going to predict that it will be here this time next year. And, as long as it has a 7 in front of it, it's fine. Curves, 67% last week and 391K, 72% this week and 414K. Again, it's going to close soon. 6, 77% last week and 633K. This week, 72% and 623K. Again, it's been going for 3 years, so it makes sense that it's doing a little bit worse. It's done great before May, but consistently it's been doing more 6s. I think it could survive at least another year with these numbers because the running costs are so low, but it's not necessarily doing great. Smash is the next New York, 68% last week and 625K. 66% this week and 656K. So I'd expect that to close by either Labor Day or by the end of the year, though I'm thinking maybe more Labor Day. Stranger Things, 83% last week and 896K. This week, 78% and 891K. Again, I think this definitely needs to get that summer tourist Stranger Things Season 5 thing going. But if it does fail, I think inevitably proves that the Marquee Theater is cursed unless you're a limited engagement. Sunset Boulevard, 88% both weeks, 1,253,000 last week, and 1,261,214 this week. So amazing, and extended by a week. Book of Mormon, and those grosses are going to go way up. Book of Mormon, 90% last week and 780K. This week, 89% and 791K. Again, I think this will take about a good year of it doing really horrible for it to close, so I don't think it's going to close in 2026, at the earliest 2027. And again, it's been going for almost 20 years, and it's still doing pretty decent. And overall, 2025 has been a good year for Book of Mormon. It's just had a very rough couple of months. Gatsby, 93% last week and 1,075,762. This week, 90% and 1,056,038. The last 5 years is officially the biggest disappointment since I don't know when, with 79% last week and 460K, and 69% this week and 444K. And then The Outsiders sells out, and 1,201,657 to 1,216,709. And maybe Happy Ending confirmed to have a weekly running cost of $765. And for an original musical, that is pretty expensive, and so they did take a big risk on it. That again, as I predicted, as long as it's doing the 750 plus range, it's doing fine. But those are my thoughts. Like, sub, comment. See you in the next video. Peace.